All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bitcoin Brief with your host, Tone Vays. We have a second news show for this week because a lot has happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. And we're bringing on some new guests to talk about it. Of course, you all know Jimmy Song. Say hi, Jimmy.
Hi, Jimmy.
All right. And for the first time on this show, let's welcome Lex, also known as Bitcoin Mechanic. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Yeah, good, man. Good to be here.
All right. And on Twitter, you are known as Grass-Fed Bitcoin. All
Yeah.
right. Are you a carnivore as well, like the rest of us?
You know, I tried to be. If I was more disciplined, I would be a carnivore, but I usually just screw up and eat a lot of burgers and bread and French fries and stuff. But I believe in carnivory. I just don't have the discipline to do it.
Oh, man. I try to get my burgers wrapped in like avocado, well, like just slice an avocado in half and use that as buns.
Nice.
That's basically my burgers these days. All right.
Avocados suck. Why?
Avocado is pretty healthy. Jimmy and I will argue about that for a while. All right. Hey, man, I got your Twitter up here. So here it is, Bitcoin Mechanics Twitter. It's also in the video description. You also have a YouTube channel. I actually watched your video on Bitcoin's energy concerns, which you did a month ago. Did you see this coming?
Well, I mean, the energy concern is just forever, right? I'm not sure what initially. I think there was a little. There was some sort of illusion that. Or alluding that Elon Musk did, I think, some tweet he liked. I think it was maybe with the interaction he had with Kim.com or something like that, where there was some sort of concern that happened, and I got a bunch of messages from people that were new to Bitcoin saying, "Oh, what about the energy?" And I just when I get enough annoying messages about something, I'll make a video on it and then just be like, "Here, watch the video." And that's why you see the one there on NFTs. That's why you'll see the one on shitcoin crypto, just because it saves me time from having to respond to everyone and just put it all in one video and send it out.
That's exactly how I started that podcast, Crypto Scam. I wanted to just get all my views out on Litecoin, on Ripple, and all this other stuff. But then it was too much research, so I couldn't keep it going. Right. Oh, by the way, so you came on my radar not that long ago. I know you've been around the space longer than me, but with this video, I watched the whole thing. It's an hour-and-a-half video about the fork wars, and it was exactly like I remembered it. You right on the money on all the points of the shit that went down in 2017. That was excellent, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, there was a lot of my motivation for making that one is just that there's been a lot of whitewashing about what happened, because a lot of the CEOs like Brian Armstrong and even Barry Silbert, they didn't really ever acknowledge what happened. And some of the miners even pretended that the reason we got SegWit in the end is because they just decided we should have it and the user activated soft fork was an irrelevance. And that annoyed me. So I thought, let's get the correct version of history out there. And I was really impressed with Michael Saylor as well, because he dug back into the past and decided one of his reasons for investing in Bitcoin so much was because that there was this rabid group of users that would just defend it at every cost, and they would die on the hill if they needed to. And I thought he did his history somehow, and he researched deep enough that he didn't get thrown off track by people trying to whitewash the past, but it still needs to be out there.
Yeah, no, and that was us. That was Jimmy and myself doing all those fork videos. We even had a series called, I forgot what it was called at this point, but those videos are still out there.
I think it was called Scaling Bitcoin or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it couldn't have been called
Scaling
Bitcoin.
Or
because there was a conference called Scaling Bitcoin.
Oh, it was like Block something. I forget. Yeah. Never mind.
But yeah, so I hope Michael Saylor watched some of those videos as well. Oh, and by the way, in your technical breakdown of the Doge was absolutely excellent.
Thanks, man.
One of the best videos I've seen this entire year, by the way.
You want to show it? It's only 4 seconds. So
yes. So here's the Dogecoin technical analysis and coding breakdown. And that's it.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what it deserves. Oh, guys, by the way, an interview that was taken with me 2 months ago finally aired on Kryptonite. It was really, really cool. So you can go ahead and check that out. All right, we got to dive into the stories because I got a flight to catch. Speaking of Dubai, where this video actually took place, you'll see it right there with Dubai in the background. I am headed there today, but it's not a direct flight, so I got a long journey up ahead of me. All right. our stories for the day, BlockFi and their incredible competence of sending people Bitcoin instead of dollars. So people that in their promotion that were supposed to get $100 ended up getting 100 Bitcoin. I think someone got sent 700 Bitcoin. Of course, most of these things, they were immediately taken away because this is all a centralized platform, and they don't deny that it isn't a centralized platform. It is all centralized, like a bank account. And I know there's also a report, one person was able to withdraw the 5 Bitcoin they gave them. They are, of course, asking for that 5 Bitcoin back, and they will get it back because this is a centralized system. So please don't feel like you have the right to that 5 Bitcoin that they erroneously sent you, because they know who you are. And if you don't give it back, they can accuse you of stealing other people's money. So you may want to give this Bitcoin back to them. Otherwise, you could be in a lot of legal trouble. But it does show the incredible technical competence of our crypto space. In addition to a similar story, considering the big crash that happened, companies like BlockFi are holding on to your Bitcoin. So while you think it's risk-free to let other people, hold your collateral while you borrow money against that collateral, that kind of means that they get to sell that collateral if shit hits the fan and there is a crazy drop, which we're going to talk about at the end of the show. You know what, Jimmy? Why don't you weigh in on this BlockFi thing, and then we'll, Lex, if you're welcome to comment on any of these stories. So it'd be great to get your take as well. Jimmy, go.
Yeah, so BlockFi is a custodial lender, and they rehypothecate your Bitcoin. So the ostensible reason why people go on BlockFi is to make money on their Bitcoin. And honestly, to me, this is like just getting way too greedy. Are you not happy with like 200% annualized returns over like the last 10 years? You need to get that extra 2% or 3% or whatever it is that they're giving you and take enormous risk. The fact of the matter is, when you have situations like this, when somebody when somebody codes something wrong and puts Bitcoin instead of dollars, I can't believe that made it through QA. Like that tells me everything I need to know about the actual back end these guys are running. They're not doing much QA. They're like kind of playing with people's money. If it's this shoddy on this end, I can't imagine how shoddy it must be on the back end, or how secure it is. For a while there in the Bitcoin space, you would get a lot of hacks of exchanges, but a good predecessor to that was, these exchanges would go down for significant amounts of time, and I think that was.
Wait, I'm sorry, predecessor. That just happened yesterday to like Coinbase and many others. Right?
And that's the thing. It gives you sort of like a good idea of the competence of the engineering team, and 12 to 18 months later, they tend to get hacked in some way, shape, or form because, okay, if they're not good at scaling their business, then they probably aren't very good at securing their stuff either. And for whatever reason, those two tend to run together. This is an unconscionable mistake by BlockFi, like doing that and having to go through legal means to recover the Bitcoin. I guarantee you, if somehow they there was a screenshot of somebody that got like 700 Bitcoin. If that person were able to get the 700 Bitcoin out and, they fled to, Venezuela or something where they couldn't be extradited, they would essentially have to give everybody else on the platform a haircut in order to do so. So this is a risk that you're taking. I really don't recommend that you do that. Or if you are, do it with a tiny, tiny portion of your stack and not very much, at which point it kind of doesn't become worth it because you're getting 2-3% on like 0.5% of your stack. That's
So speaking of that 700, right? Because legally you can't take that money, but also they messed up. So what I would do with that 700, if I happened to be in front of my BlockFi portfolio, which I obviously don't have because I think using it is insane. But had they sent that 700 Bitcoin to me, I would have immediately withdrawn that 700 Bitcoin. And I would have said, sure, I'm happy to give it back to you once you have filed the necessary paperwork with the government requesting it back, and like dragged out the process as long as possible and then I would either give them the 700 Bitcoin back or the dollar equivalent of that, whichever one is to my advantage a year later by the time they're done with the paperwork.
That would be interesting. I don't know if that would fly in legal terms, but that would be an interesting way to try.
All right, Lex, your thoughts on this? Would you ever put your Bitcoin to BlockFi to get a little extra yield?
No, and that's not to say though that I would never use any service like BlockFi. I think when it comes to, I think Bitcoin as an ecosystem, as it matures, there does tend to become, there will eventually become reliable services that will hold your Bitcoin for you, and there's a legitimate business there, right? And especially if you're borrowing, rather than putting in interest accounts, which I think really is foolish. I think borrowing is reasonable to do with Bitcoin because it's basically the same mentality as buying another increasing asset like real estate and borrowing money to do it because over the long run you'll win. So you get a mortgage, you buy a house, the house goes up in value faster than the interest you have to pay. It's reasonable to defer selling of Bitcoin by borrowing against it. And if you can find a reliable platform to do it, then fair enough. But I will say that generally when custodial services in Bitcoin collapse, there tends to be warnings first. And with BlockFi, we've seen over and over again that they're not competent and they don't know what they're doing. And even their internal policies, when you match them up with their incompetence, just should cause you to be outraged. Like the fact that they had all the data leak off their platform, not just names and addresses, but actual Bitcoin transaction history as well. When you combine that with the fact that they punish you and penalize you if you use coin-joined Bitcoins, when you combine those two things together, it means BlockFi is saying, you have to send us your Bitcoin and there has to be, your blockchain history can't be masked in any way. And we don't have the competence to obscure it either. In the instance where we get hacked, what data will be out there is your name and address and everything about you, plus your Bitcoin's actual history. So if you've moved from your big mega stash, 2 Bitcoins or something like that over to BlockFi, and that comes from an address with 200 Bitcoins at it, they're saying you can't coin join it. It's going to come here. And if we lose it, now your name and address and the fact that you have 200 Bitcoins just exist out there. And we're sorry about that. That should have been the first red flag to everyone, saying you just shouldn't use this service on principle. And there are other services, like I would shout out to Ledden, the Canadian equivalent of BlockFi. They don't have shitcoins the same way. That gives me a bit more confidence. To my knowledge, they've never been hacked. And I think if you want to defer selling Bitcoin, I don't think you should use the interest accounts. But I do think if you, rather than sell a Bitcoin and get a huge tax bill, borrow against it, defer selling for a year or 2 years, and you're probably going to come out ahead in the end. There's custodial risk, but I think it can be worth it in some instances.
Yeah, hey, and we got an awesome comment during the live chat. Otto Opsec says, take the 700 Bitcoin, put them through a coin join and give it back to them and see if they reject it.
Yeah. Somehow I don't think they reject that, hey?
All right. So speaking of gross incompetence, we are now entering probably my favorite story of the year. I could not stop laughing when I read this headline. A hacker used PancakeSwap to manipulate the Pancake Bunny market or the Bunny token and crashed it to nearly zero. So this is our future of finance, ladies and gentlemen. I just want this story out here for historical significance of what people are investing in the DeFi space. Any quick comments, guys?
I don't know anything about DeFi.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing PancakeSwap is kind of like Uniswap and SushiSwap, so it's probably a secondary DeFi platform built on top of Ethereum, and Pancake Bunny is probably a token within PancakeSwap that does something really weird that probably only a few people really understand. And the rest of and essentially, if you don't understand exactly how it works, you're the product. You're probably the one that's getting scalped and you're the one losing money. So, I don't feel terrible for them at all. Actually, it's built on Binance, not Ethereum. So I misspoke there a little bit. But basically there's, this isn't the only Binance token DeFi platform that's had some sort of smart contract flaw that got exploited. There's been many of them, and this continues to be the case. I think Tone finds it funny because there's a bunny involved, and I don't know. I could see him like taking one of his like axes and like throwing it at the bunny, and getting some good meat for tonight.
All right, no, don't get me in trouble with the PETA people too. No, I just find it funny because of like people are actually like someone had to write this article and like not laugh with all of these words. But anyway, we got a lot more crazy stories.
I want to see something named penis or something.
They have that.
It's got to be. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be out there, right?
Yeah, it's going to make headlines sooner or later. And one more shitcoin story of the day. So I didn't even know this. I didn't even know that all of these shitcoin projects are sending Vitalik Buterin like a third of all the tokens, sending him like $1 billion worth of Shiba coin or like $8 billion worth of Shiba coin, whatever it is. And I mean, I just read this morning and I'm like, this is like insane. But this is how these people work. This is how all of these shitcoins work. Some guy creates a token. He has to pump that token. He gives away a third of that token to prominent people, whether they want the token or not. Like they can send Vitalik Buterin $1 billion worth of a scam coin and say Vitalik has $1 billion worth of the scam coin, and they are not lying. They are actually telling the truth. And then they keep the other third, and then the final third is being pumped by idiots who believe that Vitalik actually wanted this 1/3 of this scam coin. And Vitalik apparently sent a bunch of them away and it crashed the price. Like how are people still falling for this nonsense? Again, quick comment, and then we're going to move on to more interesting stories.
Yeah, the only reason this could work is because Vitalik's Ethereum address is more or less public. And this is one of the flaws of the entire Ethereum platform. It's account-based. So you have an address, and that's more or less your address the entire time. Plus, they have those .eth addresses, which are sort of like a quote unquote decentralized form of, figuring out how to send it to people like Vitalik. So his, Twitter profile will have Vitalik.eth or something like that. So you can very easily send, meme coins to Vitalik. What I find interesting about this is these are meme coins. They like purport to have nothing at all to do with utility whatsoever, which is honestly a little bit more honest than a lot of these ICOs and DeFi and all this other stuff. What's crazy is Shiba coin was like up to I don't know, like 23rd on the coin market cap charts before crashing further. You can scroll down here. I think they're still in the 20s somewhere. But I mean, essentially what they did was they sent it to Vitalik's address, made it seem like he was involved in it. And that got the price pumping. And of course, he wanted to deny that he was a part of this project. So he donated a bunch of it. There's some question as to whether or not he just incurred like $1 billion tax liability, because at the time he received it, it was like $8 billion worth of Shibu coin.
No, he didn't, because Jimmy, he's Canadian and he doesn't live in Canada, so he has no tax liability.
So from what I hear, he was in the U.S., but he moved to Singapore. So now.
No, but I thought he was Canadian, right? So he's not. He doesn't have global income.
Yeah. So something like
that. So he may want to move to Dubai, but he may owe taxes in Singapore. It's awesome that it's still above Monero. Shows that it has technically more utility than Monero. But
it got launched like 2 weeks ago, and this is what happens. There's another one higher up on the coin market cap charts. It's called Internet Computer. Literally launched like a week and a half ago, and it's in the top 10. That tells you where the market is right now.
Didn't Vitalik give the Shiba Inu that he got away to an Indian charity, which would mean even if he did get taxed on it, he could write the whole thing off?
Yeah, I think that's what he did. But I mean, I don't know if he was able to give all of it away. That's kind of what happens when you have like a third of the supply. Like there's no liquidity there to absorb it. And this is why the price crashed so suddenly. So it's not on this one. You have to go to like CoinMarketCap, but Internet Computer.
That's all right. We're gonna move on to something we predicted, what, 5 years ago, that just like IBM's entry into the blockchain space was stupid. Here comes Microsoft finally admitting that they're also shutting down their blockchain service, because Microsoft engineers eventually realized that what they refer to as a blockchain, they've already had since the 90s, called Excel. And this is really not much different than Excel, so they're shutting down their blockchain division. Lex, we'll give you first crack at this.
Frankly, I don't know much about it. I mean, it's one of these things where, to quote Jihan, if a thing smells like shit, there's no need to taste it. Like, it's just, it's, what are you doing? It's just an inefficient database. You're hashing stuff together for no reason. The hashing implies that there's some sort of immutability to the database, which can't exist if it's centralized anyway. You can just go back and change everything after the fact. The whole thing is just running the world's worst database for reasons that aren't valid and won't hold up. So, I mean, it's really funny when, you've got R3, right, Mike Hearn's thing, when these big companies sort of get into the blockchain space and throw millions of dollars at it and go, yeah, this whole thing would be better done in a spreadsheet, wouldn't it? Like, how many millions of dollars does it take them to figure it out? And how are we still, like, is this the end of it? Is this the end of blockchain, not Bitcoin? Is it, like, the whole sexy blockchain thing? Is that finally over?
No. Well, it's over. It's over for companies that hire competent engineers, but it's not over in the crypto space. Jimmy, your view.
So I won't name names or anything, but I have been approached by Microsoft as a representative to, they were trying to sell me on this stuff. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And the impression that I had at the time, and this was years ago when they started this service, was, hey, there's a big market for blockchain and we're going to make it a cloud service and we want an advantage over Amazon. So, they've obviously been competing with AWS for a while now, and they thought this was going to be something that would differentiate them and get more consumers. Of course, that didn't happen. Blockchain stuff was all hype, as I knew it was even back then, and they're realizing no one's buying this thing, this basic service that'll like kind of create a blockchain according to your needs or whatever. I think they forgot to create a shitcoin, Jimmy. If only they had a shitcoin, it would have succeeded. Well, I mean, they were trying to be the platform for shitcoins, man. That was the idea.
That doesn't matter. How many platforms are trying to be the platform for shitcoins?
They were trying to do it in the private blockchain space, but private blockchains are not a thing, right? Like this was a big deal back like 4 or 5 years ago. It's clearly not anything anymore, and that's why they're sunsetting this thing. Good on them on finally recognizing that. They're doing some other stuff that's actually useful, like Ion and decentralized identity built on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. But I mean, like, this was clearly just kind of from a cynical point of view, a way to lure in corporate suckers that fell for the private blockchain stuff.
All right, so now let's move on to talk about the whole Bitcoin uses too much energy discussion, which is great to have Lex on to talk to us as well. So Elon is still going at it. There was an article in the FT talking about, how bad Bitcoin is for the environment. I watched this 2 minutes with Michael Saylor. It's absolutely awesome. I wonder if you guys can hear it if I play it. This is always, I probably should.
Yeah, try it. Totally worth listening to,
I'm gonna try it.
This is amazing.
So live, Jimmy, if you can hear it, the live chat will be able to hear it. I'm gonna hold this up to my microphone and see if it works. Let me change my computer audio. No, my computer audio is correct. Shit. All right, let's try this again.
Dude, I'm gonna get you an audio interface.
I got it.
Well, first of all, I think there's something cruel and tasteless about an entitled rich white male that wants to deprive billions of poor women and children and men in Africa, Asia, and South America of the basic human right of economic self-preservation so he can generate some laughs. The world generates 160,000 terawatt hours of energy a year. Of that, 50,000 terawatt hours of energy is wasted, like 30%. Of that, 120 terawatt hours is used to run the entire Bitcoin network. To put that in perspective, that's 7.5 basis points of all the energy in the world. If you take all the energy used in the Bitcoin network, it amounts to 25 basis points of all the wasted energy. So 1/4% of the wasted energy in the world offers the hope of a decent life to 8 billion people and solves an economic problem. And that the 25 basis points is of the wasted energy, because the Bitcoin network is the bidder of last resort for all energy. So if you eliminated Bitcoin from the world and you robbed the billions of people of a decent chance at a decent life, you're still going to waste 50,000 terawatt hours of energy. If you actually study the Bitcoin network, you'll find that there's about $1 trillion of assets under management. It's secured by about $2 billion worth of energy a year. Call it 20 basis points. 20 basis points of the energy in the network is the cost to secure it. Now, that energy probably costs about 2 cents a kilowatt hour. And in many cases, it is literally discarded energy and there is zero value for it. No one would pay anything for it. So its marginal value of the human race is literally zero. I can only say, giving him the benefit of the doubt, he's a comedian and he's playing this for laughs, and his job is to act like a fool. And if you take economic, political, or technical advice from a fool, what does that make you?
That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Bitcoin Mechanic, I'll give you first crack at this one because I watched your video on the same topic that you did a month ago. And that was excellent as well. And you talked about how Bitcoin is creating a lot more efficiency. This is the video, by the way. Please check out his channel. He can definitely use a few subs. The videos that I've seen from here have been great. I have not seen them all, but definitely probably a good channel to catch up on. And you also mentioned how like cities are inefficient and how that energy is transferred. So I'll give you the floor on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big topic to cover, right? But the main sort of zoomed out perspective I'd have on it is you're not going to get people to use less electricity. You're not going to put that genie back in the bottle. Like, we've discovered we need to use energy. It's a good thing. You're never gonna stop people from using it. So you really need to transition into using it in a green manner. I don't want to go too far with the whole Bitcoin is really just a revolution in energy. And like, it's easy to go a little bit too far with those claims. But if you are an environmentalist and your concern is dirty energy and you want to transition humanity from predominantly using fossil fuels to using renewable energy, Bitcoin is just a really good way to do it, because it has all these priorities that aren't used. Like when you move house and you know, it's an afterthought. Oh, how is the electricity generated? Like where I live in British Columbia, most of it is hydroelectricity, right? But it's not like I moved here because of that. Like if it was all coal powered, I wouldn't be like, okay, I've got to move house. But Bitcoin miners literally only have one concern, which is the price of the energy. And unreliable but renewable energy is literally the cheapest energy there is. So they go and seek it out. They give companies an incentive to set up energy producing operations. And they help bootstrap a whole industry that says, hey, we can get really, really cheap renewable energy here, but it might not be on all the time. Like if it's solar, okay, it's good for 12 hours a day, or if it's wind, or like you can't give cities and people 99% of the time energy needs to be completely reliable. And people, the renewable element is the second thought. It's the afterthought. It's not the main factor. But with Bitcoin mining, it's just, is it cheap or not? We don't care. It might go down for 3 hours a day. But the point is, we save so much money by mining here, and no one else wants to use this electricity because no one wants to live somewhere where the power goes out for 3 hours a day. So it just creates this rolling incentive where you can get something going that wouldn't, I can't think of any other instance in which that would be particularly practical. So it's a positive thing. And then, but then there's the other perspective of more Safedin's perspective, which is why do we have to justify this stuff, man? Like everyone else is using energy all the time. I don't judge you when you fly to places. I'm not telling you, oh, do you know how much energy you use per mile flying to New York instead of walking to New York? You should walk. It's bad for the environment flying. Like, no one does that because it's stupid. So, you know, and then the final argument is just how much energy is maintained propping up fiat currency. What goes into that? How many sort of second and third layer elements are there to that? And when you look at Bitcoin, it just does it more efficiently, even though it's a direct consumption of energy. It's just the indirect elements aren't there. So yeah, and I think it's totally justified. I get annoyed with the FUD, so that's why I made that video. But I think Michael Saylor makes he has some great points there, and he has some actual numbers rather than just concepts. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you on that. And I've made that argument myself. I've told people the next time you have to go across the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean, you better swim. You can't go in a wooden boat either, because cutting down trees releases carbon dioxide that is stored in the trees. So by cutting down a tree to build a boat, you're increasing the carbon dioxide in the air from the dead trees. So you better swim.
It's real weak FUD, man. It's just like often the claim made by energy FUD people is that it's doing nothing, it's useless, and that's another point, right? They're saying, like, why don't we get it to do something useful, like figure out prime numbers or some project like SETI at home or something like that? Why don't we do something useful with the Bitcoin money? And you're like, first off, it is useful. You're securing humanity's monetary network, and second off, if you introduce economic externalities like that, then you're screwed. Because what if prime numbers are more valuable one day and less valuable another day? Then the miners have all this other stuff they have to take into consideration when it comes to figuring out their profit. So the whole point is that it's useless, but it's not useless. It does one thing, and it's not designed to complicate the issue by doing other stuff.
Yeah, and Saifedean has made that argument in his book, and then on my channel when he was debating Peter Schiff, when Peter Schiff says, well, you can also make cufflinks with gold. And Saifedean made the argument, yeah, that's stupid. Like, your money should not have additional use cases. It makes absolutely no sense. All right, Jimmy, why don't you get in on this one?
Yeah, can you bring back up the screen share? Because for me, the energy thing, I think you guys...
Have I not been in screen share this whole time?
Well, you got out of screen share like recently to go to Bitcoin Mechanic, but now just go back.
Oh, wait, well, when I was playing Michael Saylor, was
that what you were in screen share then? It's
okay,
just you got
my
out
bad.
of it.
I thought I was in screen share the whole time, because I was like highlighting this part from Francis's, and I was also like kind of like scrolling through screens. I didn't realize I wasn't on.
No. All right. So yeah. So here's what happened here, and this is the part that I think that we really kind of need to look into. All right. So Adam, after the video, go scroll down a little bit. Adam says, oh, but there's this argument or whatever. And then there's a deleted tweet, which we'll get to in a second. And then Michael Saylor says, Bitcoin is electric money. Real cars use more electricity than toy cars. The article above is full of logical errors and falsehoods. Bitcoin is the most efficient technology for converting energy into prosperity we have yet to devise. And then Elon Musk on the next one replies, well, go up. Where are you going?
He replied with this.
No. That's go up, Tone. That was the deleted tweet from before. Right. But I wanted to show this one right there. Okay. So he replies with, "It's not the bull market. You really are a genius." This is as clear an ad hominem attack as possible, right? Like, he's not addressing the issue. He's just saying, you think you're smart, but you're not, and like giving no evidence against, right? Like he doesn't want to argue the issue at all. And the reason why he actually didn't, he deleted the previous one was he put Michael, well, now you can go to the other one where he said Michael GigaChat Saylor right there. That was what he actually deleted. And the thing about that was he was getting ratioed like hard. People were liking Michael Saylor's, despite Michael only having less than 1 million followers, and Elon having well over 10 million. That he was basically getting ratio, so he deleted it. And of course, RDBTC came up with this. It's not the carbon credits. You really are an entrepreneurial genius. So, this is sort of like the level of discourse that we're getting from the other side, represented by Elon Musk, which is, I'm not going to give you actual arguments. I'm going to throw a bunch of ad hominems. I'm not going to, refute your numbers. I'm just going to make fun of you. That seems to be his strategy, and I find it despicable. And I'm starting. There are people that have told me in the past that Elon Musk is sort of this very sociopathic kind of person that isn't a very good person. Period. And I kind of dismissed it, but I'm starting to see hints of it all over the place. This article is great by Francis Pulio. He's been on the show before, but Cry Harder. I love the title.
Did you see Jack Mallers' takedown of Elon Musk?
Yes, that one was awesome. Great too.
Yeah, I think Elon Musk, he's like another kind of Vitalik, man. It's the emperor has no clothes. With this one, and like even me, I drank the Musk Kool-Aid. I thought he was an awesome guy. I liked his anti-woke stuff because he seemed to be one of the few people in that position that would post like risky memes and stuff like that, and not be afraid of getting canceled. And I fell for it a little bit. I thought this guy's all right, and maybe I'm going to get a Tesla. Blah blah blah. After this weekend and seeing just the sheer, like, I don't want to call it immaturity, but just it's just pathetic. There's no other word for it. It's really embarrassing. Like, did you see the tweet where he says to Sailor, "Oh, you should go in a Halloween costume, like with Bitcoin tattooed on your thigh"? It's literally, if you love Bitcoin so much, why don't you marry it? It sounds like high school. It's just the most childish stuff I've ever seen, and it's just embarrassing. Hey, like, and it's like anything else. Like, you can get in trouble with the SEC. You can generally survive everything and be quite against the grain, like Musk appears to have been in the past. But once you mess with Bitcoin, you just end up getting destroyed.
Wait a minute. What's wrong with being in Bitcoin in a Halloween costume?
Ask Musk. I'd do it, but Musk seems to think.
Dude, you look terrible in that picture. I gotta just say it. That looks horrible.
That was a very old. That's a very old picture.
Okay, but regardless, I think we're seeing Elon for who he is. He doesn't actually give good arguments when he's wrong, and he's one of these like CEO types that has such a large ego. He can't ever admit he's wrong. Instead, he will try to like sideswipe you. Instead of having an argument, it's just, hey, I'm gonna make fun of you, and that's my argument. It's the "so's your mom" defense. I don't know. He looks extremely weak after this to me, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla has been going down, and he's making sure to tell people, hey, we got diamond hands and all that stuff. We know why he's doing it. It's because he doesn't want people to short Tesla, and Bitcoin is a great hedge in against getting shorted to death, which was happening even like 2 years ago. It was a big thing. Tesla Q was like a trending thing on Twitter and so on. And he came back from the brink largely due to retail investors who got stimmy checks. But that's like, it's very possible that Tesla could go bankrupt because they're not getting, government subsidies anymore, and they have to apply for different kinds of trading of carbon credits or whatever. He's a rent seeker, and it's fairly clear that things aren't going very well for him right now.
Yeah, his advocacy of carbon taxes was the last thing I would ever tolerate from him. That's it. There's no way that leads to something good. Putting the government in charge of what you're allowed to consume like that, that's just the most corrupt system just waiting to happen. It's, I'm trying to avoid COVID, but it sounds to me a lot like, governments mandating vaccines or tacitly mandating them. It's just something that's a disaster waiting to happen. And carbon taxes are the same thing. And it's also not like we haven't already had them since the 80s. Like it's just been a way for, it basically just ends up when you sum everything up, it ends up with taxpayers giving oil companies money. That's basically how the whole thing ends up. And as far as I'm concerned, Elon advocating that is just complete self-interest. It's not going to help. It's not going to help the environment. It will be a net negative. And it's just another way of bailing out what I now realize is just a failing business.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be really interesting what happens to Tesla once carbon credits are. Look, I will say that Tesla cars are pretty cool. Like I don't have one, but I've been inside enough of them.
They are beautiful, but you know, doesn't necessarily make money. And in fact, they're getting heavily subsidized by everybody.
I'm gonna say this. So over the years, over the last decade, I know Bitcoin is a little longer than 10 years, but let's ignore the first couple of years from this argument. Over the last 10 years, like Bitcoin has destroyed reputations consistently. Like no one has ever talked shit about Bitcoin and somehow came up victorious. Like you can't. The best thing you can do if you don't like Bitcoin is say nothing, because saying something is always going to end badly, because Bitcoin isn't going anywhere. You can either, you know, jump on board publicly, silently, or just, you know, ignore it. It's not going to go away. It will only destroy your reputation if you had it. Like that's the one thing Bitcoin has always done.
Indeed.
Right.
Indeed.
We got, I mean, Giacomo may join us in a couple of minutes, even though I'm going to be talking about price coming up. We got two more quick things. One of them, both of them came through just as we were about to start the show. So there was a $5 million Bitcoin donation anonymously to the business school at the University of Pennsylvania. Is this really that big a news? What do you guys think?
It's interesting that it was done anonymously. It was facilitated by NYDIG, who we know is big into Bitcoin and so on. I think we'll see more stuff like this going forward, and I suspect that more libertarian causes will get donations of this nature. It is interesting that it's donated to the Wharton School, which I know doesn't need money. It's kind of like donating to Harvard. It's like why would you, like, they don't really need it. I question the effectiveness of this, but it is kind of cool that, you're able to do it anonymously with it. And, you're getting a little bit of press for Bitcoin, at least. You know
what would have been cooler? Because I know Harvard has that big endowment that makes very good money. I'm assuming the Wharton School also has an endowment. And if I was this donor, I would have said, I will double whatever portion of your endowment you put into Bitcoin that you're willing to lock up for X number of years, and I will double that amount up to 5 million and see how much they're willing to put. Kind of like the 401k from your employer, where they double the money to get you to save money for your future.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a good way to donate to your university or something like that. It is. A lot of these places are going super woke, so maybe that's a way to get some influence in there. But I don't see the university system as really something worth redeeming.
Me neither.
And Giacomo just sent over a tweet. Hopefully, he'll join us to say a few words. The Dutch central bank has lost its court case against Vitalik, which I'm not familiar with, to be honest with you guys. It's been around since 2012.
Hey, Tone, you might want to unshare and share again with this particular window only.
Oh, am I on the whole thing?
You're showing your entire desktop, so yeah. Unshare and share again.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Before I click on something. No, but there shouldn't have been anything doxed that badly.
Yeah, I'm just like, you're one click away from showing something bad.
I see what my other tabs say. Thank you. The Dutch central bank lost its court case against an exchange, resulting in Dutch Bitcoin exchanges no longer needing to verify wallet addresses. This is great news.
Wasn't it just screenshots they were asking as verification anyway? It was completely just laughable, right? Or did they get more nuanced than just asking for send us a screenshot of the address in the wallet that you're asking us to send Bitcoins to? Did it ever get more nuanced than that?
I wasn't really paying attention to the Dutch court case against exchanges. So maybe.
Well, that was the law, right? They said if you want to withdraw Bitcoin from an exchange to an address, you have to prove that address belongs to you. And the proof we require is you sending a screenshot of the wallet that contains that address, which is just absolutely baffling. Like you could sign a message saying, "Hi, my name's whatever," and this is Bitcoin, right? It's like they'd be happy with what Craig Wright did, right? Like just send them a picture and sign it with your actual signature. Like this is Bitcoin. You have the possibility to sign stuff with private keys and prove control of an address. So I don't think they ever got that sophisticated though.
Yeah, maybe. But hey, this is good news. But eventually everything will be just coin joined inside wallets, and it'll, Bitcoin will never have, native on-chain privacy like Monero, but it will be certainly good enough when every one of your Bitcoin transactions does pretty much automatically mixes for fungibility. What are your thoughts on that, Lex?
On the eventual adoption of privacy protocols like Bitcoin wide, it would be great to see more exchanges do what Francis Pouliot is doing with Bull Bitcoin in Canada, which is automatic coin joins every time you do a withdrawal from the exchange. It's not bulletproof exactly, and I've seen some pretty nasty Twitter arguments between him and I think it was Matt Odell. I think they were going at each other for a few hours, but obviously you have to trust Bull Bitcoin not to keep a record of what's happened exactly, but it would be great to see coin joins become the standard, though obviously we've got Belcher's coin swap on the way. I don't know how long it's going to take for that to make it into the actual protocol, but coin join it's amazing, but you have to have exact amounts of 0.1 Bitcoin plus what you need for the change amounts, right? So it can be a bit clunky and annoying to use, but coin swap is just amazing, right? You can have the 6 Bitcoin and you want to swap them for 6 unrelated, unlinkable Bitcoin, and you can just do it in one move. That seems amazing to me. Whereas that's 60 hours you've got to spend coin joining to do the same thing, and then you have all these toxic change outputs and things like that you can't spend. Hey, Giacomo.
Hey, Giacomo.
Hey, Tone, can you pull up the link that I just sent you?
Yep, I just did. Oh, one more thing. We're going to get Giacomo in a second on the coin join. Well, what do you call it? BTC Pay server is adding that functionality as well. So Bull Bitcoin can go through the open source BTC Pay server as well. Yeah,
Tone, you alluded to Canada's problems earlier, but Canada's got some amazing Bitcoiners in it. I gotta say, it's got Francis Pouliot. It's got, BTC Pay server is kind of based here as well in a way.
It also has Vitalik. Let's not.
No, Vitalik left, and we have Cold Card. We got NVK as well. So I think No. No. The Bitcoiners coming out of Canada are great. There's a lot of awesome Bitcoiners there. I never denied that part. Yeah, Vitalik was kind of.
It's probably nature of selection, like Darwin pressure. If you survive as a Bitcoiner in Canada, you must be a great one.
Okay, Giacomo, Giacomo, when I see you in Mexico this summer, I am bringing you like 3 different microphones because we really need to solve your audio problem.
Okay, that sucks again. Okay.
All right. Jimmy, what'd you send me?
Yeah, all right. So this is from the U.S. Senate from Chairman Sherrod Brown out of Ohio, a Democrat. And this is basically saying that the OCC granting a trust charter to Paxos, Protego, and Anchorage, which are all crypto firms, basically, was not a good idea, and he is opposing it and saying we need to reassess this. And I demand that you pull these conditional approvals. This guy is spoiling for a fight and seems like he's doing some sort of attack against the crypto industry in general. But yeah, this is the chairman of the Senate Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee. And you can go down and see at the end of the letter exactly, he's the chairman of that committee and what he's demanding there. I request that you reassess any conditional national trust charters and halt the approval of any additional charters to non-bank entities while you review. This seems kind of crazy to me. Basically, I think he's getting paid off by the banking interest to stop any competition from being added. We have our favorite senator in the U.S., which is Cynthia Lummis from Wyoming, who's also happens to be on that committee. But Sherrod Brown looks like the heel in this case. So yeah.
Well, we got more news breaking that apparently just tanked the price of Bitcoin $2,000 to $3,000. This is out. Bloomberg is reporting 4 minutes ago that the Biden administration is looking to significantly double the efforts, if not triple the efforts, to go after crypto people with the IRS. Basically, the government needs money because collecting 1 trillion in taxes and printing 23 trillion that same year is clearly the taxes are the problem, and crypto people are the scapegoat. So here is the breaking news out of Bloomberg. The tax man is coming.
Yeah, it seems like a coordinated attack a little bit, huh?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like, why not? Let's stomp on Bitcoin while the price is going down. So yeah, we'll see. Hey, listen, there's a reason why I'm making efforts to get the hell out of the country permanently, because the election did not go towards freedom at all. Went in a completely opposite direction. Not that Trump was the bastion of freedom, but anyway, let's not get political. Hey, Giacomo, so earlier today we talked about the whole energy thing, and you must have loved the news of the what BlockFi did with their competence. And don't forget the whole the bunny swap chain got destroyed by the pancake swap. So those were our news. Microsoft Azure is dropping their blockchain service, something we told them 5 years ago to do. So these were our stories. Give us your general thoughts, and then we're going to talk about Taproot.
Well, general thought about a nonsense blockchain like Azure. As you said, we always say that this Bitcoin-less blockchain doesn't make any sense as a meme. And finally, I mean, the day of recon is coming. A little bit slow, I have to say, but it's coming. Same goes for crypto craziness. Like, first of all, when Bitcoin crashed, and apparently the crash was triggered by this kind of Elon Musk generated FUD, all the so-called crypto market crashed down in a completely correlated way. So this was a proof yet again that yes, you can make money with shitcoins, more money than Bitcoin. Just you can make more money with the leverage on Bitcoin, because when Bitcoin goes up, anything which is correlated goes up more. But then when Bitcoin goes down, everything which is correlated will go down more. And shitcoins behaved exactly the same. There was no decorrelation, no hedge, no diversification at all. Plus, there is this bunny situation, which is again something predicted. I have to say that the situation with the American tax authority getting after Bitcoins with the senator and the IRS communication is also expected. I mean, we always say that, as you said, about getting out of the USA, but it's not just about Biden. It's a general tendency. If the government lives off easy money, lives off inflation, lives off confiscation and censorship, when Bitcoin succeed, they are in trouble. So governments, especially important government in the monetary section like the USA government, they will have to go after Bitcoin. What is interesting is that I don't know if you pulled up the news yet, but I sent you in the chat before this Bitcoin Magazine tweet about some news that is encountered is in a different trend. Like the Dutch central bank just lost its court case against Bitonic. Basically, Bitcoin exchanges no longer need to verify wallet addresses. You know that there was that news that when you want to withdrawal from an address, you need, yeah, this one. When you want to withdrawal, this central bank was asking addresses that you need to prove that the address is yours by signing some message so that you cannot withdrawal to your friend address. And Bitonic basically sued or requested some kind of case, and they won. So this is a little bit in counter tendency, but over the long term, I think the safe assumption is that big governments will go after Bitcoin and Bitcoiners, and of course also shitcoiners, but Bitcoin has good chances to survive that.
All right, so now let's talk about Taproot. One of the reasons, the main reason why Lex is here with us to give us his take, yeah, so go for it, because it looks like Taproot is going to get in on the next one. More and more mining pools are signaling for it. BTC.com can still be a little bit better. Binance still needs to get a little bit better. But other than those two, it seems okay. I mean, one hash is about 50-50. So once these two start signaling more consistently, which they will, by the time the next 2-week period comes around, it should lock Taproot in. But there was all this drama and going into it, not like the Segwit drama, but still drama enough. So Lex, I will give you the floor and give us your views. I know you have had very passionate views on the situation.
Yeah, there's so much to say when it comes to soft fork activation in general, and well, this one specifically. So when we released I'm going to call it the based client because it was called Bitcoin Core based. You know, even that was a massive point of contention. When we released it, Core hadn't released speedy trial yet, and it was a situation where a lot of us were frustrated with what we were calling bike shedding and just general delay after delay, with everyone agreeing we want Taproot, but everyone having some small disagreement with a specific activation method and nothing coming out. And then as speedy trial came around, entered the fray, and then there was a push for it to be done with BIP9 and using MTP instead of BIP8. I felt like that wasn't the direction I wanted to go in.
Wait, I gotta interrupt. So BIP9, BIP8, if you can explain those a little bit for our audience, and also whose idea was it to do speedy trial? Like who came up with it?
I forget. It's
David Harding.
Yeah, that's right. So speedy trial was very popular, and everyone sort of came together on it. Had I known it would go the way it's gone now, that would have changed the course of action I would have taken. I wasn't so sure that speedy trial would succeed, and also it felt like not my preferred activation method anyway. And really, to zoom out a little bit more than that, I think I agree with Rusty when I think that the soft fork activation problem is an unsolved problem in Bitcoin. But I think we basically are approaching a solution now with what we did with the base client, even though to a lot of people it looks like it might not have done anything, especially if speedy trial works in the next difficulty period. The reason I think it's a solution is because you have a situation where devs can't do anything more forceful than what they've done with Bitcoin Core because they don't want it to be called a dev activate soft fork. So they tend to just pass the buck to miners and give it and make it a miner activated soft fork. But I don't like that exactly because everything should be downstream of the users in Bitcoin. And it makes sense for there to be a way for users to just grassroots something together and activate something of their own volition. And that takes all the pressure off Core, and it takes all the pressure off miners as well, because it's just an inappropriate position for them to be in. Because with speedy trial right now, yeah, it looks like it's going to activate, but you still have something like Binance Pool, which is just a huge shitcoin company that doesn't really have much incentive. If anything, it's incentivized towards attacking Bitcoin and highlighting problems with it. And I don't like the fact that they're in a situation where they can still veto the Taproot upgrade. I mean, they might not be anymore because they seem to have lost quite a lot of hash rate. And I don't know how much of that is as a result of them dragging their heels on flipping the bit. Sorry, I realized I didn't quite answer your BIP8, BIP9 question, but I'll come back to that. Yeah, I think you don't want to put someone like CZ Binance in a position where he can veto an upgrade in Bitcoin. To me, that's just a bug. If you're all agreed that you want the Taproot upgrade, why are we giving them the option of saying no to it? I know people are rolling their eyes at that if anyone from Bitcoin Core is watching, but I think just to focus on what's positive here and to take it, there's been a lot of animosity and a lot of accusations of lying and all this stuff. And a lot of that sadly comes from the relationship between Luke and some of the core devs that have been some dislikes that have been built up over years now. Me and Luke don't have exactly the same motivations, right? And my motivation is just that in the future, I think the way to go about soft fork upgrades, we've still got a few essential ones coming, like any pre-vowed, maybe Jeremy Rubin's check template verify. We've got these things to consider, and I like the approach, and I think a lot of people like the approach of having a slow rollout, but where you still get the grace and the elegance of miners being the ones that activate the soft fork on the network. It's not just a flag day where up until the block where it gets activated, no one knows if it's activated yet. You still give miners the option of accelerating the process and objectively activating the upgrade on the network, but you don't give them the option of saying, no, we don't want this, because this is not an attack on miners, and it's not a PTSD from 2017 or any of that stuff. It's merely just us saying, miners, you can activate this sooner if you want, but not putting them in a position where you're saying, hey, the choice is yours. Do you want to not activate it at all? Because that's just not an appropriate thing to do for miners. You don't, like CZ Binance, if he gets back over 10% again, can literally game the market right now. He can make it look like Taproot's going to happen, then short Bitcoin, turn off signaling. Suddenly it looks like it's not going to activate anymore. Market price tanks. Then he turns it back on again, and we just get through with 91% in one period or something like that. Why open yourself up to these sorts of games? It's just not necessary, and there aren't really any good trade-offs for it. If we all agree we want Taproot, why don't we just have a lot true client? But it doesn't need to be core that release it and get accused of being a dev activated soft fork. It can just be a user client. And to round it off, I'll say you have the core release and you have the independent user release, which is compatible. So if speedy trial works, the whole thing goes together anyway. No one is put out in any way, and there's no reason for the hostility. But if speedy trial doesn't work, then core are kind of back to the drawing board. But there's a release out in the wild that people would probably use. And again, it doesn't need to be seen with hostility by anyone in Bitcoin Core. It can just be seen as, well, someone else came along and forced the activation to happen. And it's basically the same process as what happened with SegWit. And we actually have track record. We have history there. SegWit actually worked. We got SegWit in as a result of a user effort. And Greg Maxwell and people like that were against merging BIP 148 into Core at the time. I think it's good for Core to be against LotTrue. I think it's good to not put miners in a position where they can block upgrades. I think what happened with SegWit was the lesson to learn from, and we can do that again, but without rushing it. So yeah, BIP8, BIP9 specifically as well is basically the difference between using block height or median time. There's nothing really about BIP9 that you can really defend, apart from the fact that it's been used in the past and it's got more miles as code. BIP8 hasn't really been run yet, but on the other hand, BIP8's been in Bitcoin Core for a long time. It's had a lot of review, even if it hasn't been used to actually activate a soft fork yet. So yeah, my main point for coming on here and talking about all this is because there's a lot of hostility and it's not really necessary. At the end of the day, this is not my perspective, but I think the rational perspective for most people to have that support speedy trial is all this other client does is make it more likely that speedy trial will succeed, because miners know that if they deny speedy trial, ultimately they're going to have to activate Taproot in the long run anyway. So they might as well minimize the disruption. So there's no harm in it really existing from what I can tell. So there doesn't need to be any hostility, and it's ultimately just something I think is a positive thing within Bitcoin's precedent. Yeah, I'll round it off there.
All right, no, that was actually really good points as to why it should be done a little bit differently. Jimmy, you have anything to add to that or counter?
Well, I mean, just I want to note that like Binance Pool actually started signaling, and they've been green for like the last 20 blocks that they found. So I think they're all in. There's like the only pool that really needs to do something is
it BTC.com?
BTC.com, yeah, and they're signaling some, but not all. So if for example, you go to mining,
but Jimmy, but Lex's point was it's not it's the ability of Binance to screw with us and profit.
Yeah, click that 2062. Click that next to Binance Pool. And you'll see that they weren't signaling, and then all of a sudden the last
no one's denying that. But what Lex is saying,
I mean it's the thing is like they might be screwing with it or they have the option, but honestly there's little incentive for them to really screw with it because like signaling.
But the incentive would be shorting Bitcoin and profiting because again, anyone that has created their own shitcoin, I don't trust these people. So I'm with Lex on this one.
But I mean, you're mining it, and you get Bitcoin for mining it. That's your reward. You want that to go down as part of it. Like it doesn't really make sense. Like from an economics perspective, if you're mining because you are getting the reward, and if you're going to jeopardize your reward in some way, I mean, you're essentially like playing against yourself if you're doing that. So. But yeah, all of these miners, except for BTC.com, have been signaling green for a while, like the last couple days or so. So I think we can safely expect a speedy trial to activate on the next one. I'm not with Lex in the sense that I don't think we need to set any sort of precedent for how soft forks are going to be done in the future or whatever. Each soft fork is going to have its own process. And like a lot of developers like setting precedents and having some clean upgrade path that they know is going to happen. I just don't think Bitcoin is going to be like that because the users are changing and like the use cases are being discovered, and like what might make sense right now to do doesn't necessarily make sense like a few years from now when the actual soft fork is ready to go and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if like, for example, like Opsy TV would make it. I know there are devs that are against that and things like that. So, I mean, there's a bunch of considerations, but trying to set a precedent, I think, is not necessarily the right thing to do.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It doesn't. Each thing can have its own bespoke approach, and that's fair enough. But I mean, Rusty made the point, right, that soft forks are still an unsolved problem. If it remains unsolved, that's fair enough. But at the same time, it does feel like it's going to be more difficult to get consensus. Like it's been or at least on an activation method, because it's been a long time of core debating how to run to roll out an activation method. And in the end, what was rolled out was basically, I mean, I'm not particularly happy about this. I mean, Tone, you asked me, am I happy about what's going on? That's initially why I ended up coming up on here. Like, of course, I'm happy if Taproot activates and we get Schnorr-SIG. It's great. But my concern is just getting SegWit active was a remarkably precarious time in Bitcoin's history, and the market was ignoring it, right? It was 2017, we were going up, up, and up. When eventually we did get it activated, it did trigger a big green candle that day. But don't be fooled. I mean, it was a pretty risky time in Bitcoin, and a lot of us were maybe prepared to go down with the ship. Maybe we were more worried than we needed to be. But in the end, what's happened with the Taproot rollout has just basically been the same mistake as last time, but with an accelerated timeline, so that there's no opportunity for a Shaolin Fry to come along and say, oh, it's the 5th activation period within speedy trial. We've only got 1 period left and we have to activate within that. So we need to rush together a client. We need to force miners to signal. Otherwise, we're going to start rejecting their blocks as of literally 3 days from now. The whole point of speedy trial to me feels like they were saying, we want to do exactly what we did with SegWit, but with such a short timeline that we can't UASF it last minute if it gets into trouble. So that to me feels kind of like a slap in the face. I don't want to speak on other people's behalf, but I know Luke's certainly taken it that way. I don't quite have the same hostility towards Core that Luke does, though I've been put in a defensive position having released the client, and a lot of people are sort of trolling now and getting pretty antagonistic towards me for doing it. But I just would like to remain focused on the positive thing of it. I think it does make sense not to put miners in a position. Like I hear what you're saying, Jimmy. I really agree. I don't think Binance are going to block the upgrade. I don't think they'll do that. But I'm saying with a bigger perspective, why put them in the position where they can in the first place? There's no advantage to doing that. And then relying on Core to release something like, a BIP148 client, they're just never going to do that. There will be far too much disagreement and knacking. So just do what we've always done. Have Core release lot false, have a user activated soft fork client come up as a sort of to give the whole thing teeth. And then hopefully those sides learn to not attack each other and just go, yeah, we actually reinforce each other. And I think it's...
I get your point, but again, this feels like you're trying to set a precedent for next time. Like with this one, it was pretty clear from months ago that the miners would activate it, and speedy trial, I think, was appropriate for this case because, hey, like more than 90% of miners already committed to it. If they back out, then it's like, okay, now we can treat you as a bad actor. There's some level of information and like appropriateness for this particular software where speedy trial, I think, was appropriate. But, like in another sort of scenario, maybe UASF is more appropriate. Like this is where I don't agree with this notion that we need to have a software process that we follow to the letter every time, because I don't think that's how these things are going to go. It's a... each one is going to have its like foibles, and it takes some amount of discussion and argument to figure out, okay, what is the appropriate thing to do in this particular case? I mean, I think speedy trial worked out for the most part, and it's the right. It seems to have been the right path, and if we get activation in the next period, then we're all good to go, and all of this consternation will have been for nothing.
I don't think it's for nothing, right? Because I don't. The base client was released before speedy trial, and it looked like there might have been more bike shedding anyway. I mean, some people will laugh at me for this, but there isn't a universe where speedy trial wasn't released after the user activated soft fork, and it definitely even Shinobi's ridiculous client where the full retard client of having Taproot activated since the Genesis block, just a ridiculous. I don't know if you came across op full retard 2019, with a picture of Pepe the Frog. But it's the fact that these things existed kind of changed the environment for Core, because Core have to avoid any sort of disruption as a main priority. And if there are people running YOLO clients like that, then they have to take that into consideration and go, well, look, we better release speedy trial because it's better than having all these retards on the network just releasing ad hoc clients. So I think it did have an impact on it. And a couple of days after we released, and we'd already been planning it openly for a week anyway, speedy trial was finally merged and it was launched on the network. I don't think you can be totally confident that speedy trial would even be happening right now if we hadn't done what we've done. So it's a factor. But a lot of people would disagree with that, and I respect people's different understanding of what's going on. But let me ask you, if it comes to the next soft fork upgrade, the obvious choice being any pre-vout, as it's just so essential for Lightning scalability. Why would you maybe think that we wouldn't just follow what we're doing now? Like, why wouldn't Core go for speedy trial? Why wouldn't there be, a user activated software? What would the difference be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, this is the thing. We don't know what the objections will be from people that might be opposing it, or what reasonable, after looking at the code, saying, okay, well, this is a way in which it can get attacked, or here's some economic incentives that might be wrong, or something like that. And I think you kind of have to take each soft fork. And not try to pre-put a process around it, because in a sense each thing is its own, and you don't know what the sort of the community will be like at that point. At some point, it might be completely appropriate for users to initiate it with user activated software flag date clients, right? Like that it may come to that at some point in the future, where that's the only way you get any soft forks. For now, this is a perfectly fine way. It gives the, for speedy trial for Taproot seems appropriate. It's possible speedy trial might also be appropriate for any prev out. It's also possible it might not. It really depends on what we find in the review, what objections we get, what sort of concerns are brought up, because we don't really know everything. I suspect that if say OpsCTV came up, that will probably have to have a completely different kind of system than something like speedy trial, because it's probably going to be more controversial. And we very well might get a user activated soft fork or something if enough users want it, or something like that.
That would be a pretty worrying situation.
I was going to say, I would love to do the show again on all of this once we can do it again next week. I do have to get to the airport, and I really wanted to get Giacomo's thoughts on this. So I'm going to get Giacomo in for a few minutes, and then I got to take a sneak peek at price. And I know we talked about shit coins for a while and didn't get to the meat and potatoes of Taproot, but the moment Taproot is being activated, we're going to do another one of these shows, and then we can spend 3 hours talking about, what went wrong with this activation, what went right, and what to do forward. And I would love to host that show. So this discussion is not yet over, but unfortunately, the show has to get wrapped up. Giacomo.
I'll try to be quick. I partially agree with both. I agree with Jimmy that we don't need to establish a precedent. It's actually very dangerous to establish a precedent, which is systematic and bureaucratic and fixed, because the only precedent which is safe for Bitcoin is no change. No change is a precedent that is problematic because you cannot upgrade, but at least it's safe because no malicious party can ruin Bitcoin fundamentally. So no update possible will be the safe option. Since there are some very good and uncontroversial changes like Taproot, and later on maybe L2 related stuff like any pre-out or cross input signature aggregation stuff, for this stuff we want some change. But it's important not to establish a precedent, but it's also important to make sure that we are not establishing a precedent. And I think the battle is the other way around. The precedent that seemed to be kind of socially established with Segwit was that miners are voting to decide about protocol upgrades. And it's very important that this kind of pseudo precedents that was being culturally established is completely demolished. And I think that if miners activated, actually without any kind of controversial thing, activated Taproot just like that, the narrative that miners voted to activate Taproot could have been established again, which is very, very dangerous. And in this case, I also see another possible. I see the starting point, the very, very embryo of a future negative narrative that could be maintainers of Bitcoin core repository on GitHub. They decide upgrades, which is also a precedent that we want to make sure is not set in stone for the future, because they would be both very, very dangerous. So I think that the important thing is that we establish that miners and core maintainers in the GitHub repository do not. Yeah, I have to cut short also because there is a core developer here disagreeing with me and probably going to censor me my speech.
That's a really good point that Giacomo made about. Hey, hello. Yeah, that was a great point you made about precedent. I actually agree. The predominant precedent prevailing should always be that things can't change. But yeah, I second everything you just said there. It doesn't make sense for miners are basically in a position where they can vote now, and we just hope they won't vote negatively. And it opens us up to a bunch of stuff that I find just not without any merit, basically.
Well, just to clarify, of course, they're not the same. Like miners influencing network protocol changes will be very, very bad because basically competing with the hash rate majority is very difficult. While developers basically influencing Bitcoin too much is an easy to solve problem because there is not a high entry barrier to just stop using Bitcoin Core repository and switching over. So it's not that dangerous. It's not like a Bitcoin Core monopoly will be as bad as an hash rate monopoly. It's completely different kind of risk. So the important thing is to make sure miners do not have control or a typical social established norm that they control Bitcoin evolution. Of course, this is not entirely true because unfortunately miners, they do control the protocol evolution, especially with miner activated soft fork. Miners cannot produce invalid blocks and force them onto users like they tried to do with the SegWit2x. They can't because we set the rules, but they actually can stop mining stuff with rules that they don't like. So in a way, they could do evil soft fork already, which is bad enough even if they cannot vote.
Yeah, and I just want to say one last thing before we finish this topic. And I really agree and appreciate your input, Giacomo, there. It's really astute. One thing that happened when we released the client that makes me have some reservations about things going forward is the negative reaction that, in my opinion, wasn't warranted. Because ultimately, we have to have an understanding in Bitcoin, like Giacomo just said, that if Bitcoin Core do something which people find unpalatable, it needs to be understood that you don't need to run Bitcoin Core. You can run what client you like. It can do what you like. And the reaction to releasing our client was we had Matt Corallo go on and say, this is how you get your coins stolen, and Greg calling it mystery meat client, all this stuff. And I found that that's really doing a disservice to Bitcoin. We're not asking anyone to trust our client, but we should never imply you should just trust Bitcoin Core either. That's not how this whole thing's supposed to be set up. So it's open source. The client's not, I found it ridiculous, the insinuation that the base client would steal your coins. And that was a ridiculous idea, and even the insinuation that it's going to cause disruption on the network. The whole thing was done to be compatible with speedy trial in the first place. And even in the most adversarial instances, or the most unfortunate circumstances, where speedy trial doesn't work out, but you have the base client on the network, and then miners activate after speedy trial. They activate, and all that happens with core nodes is they're no longer fully validating. They become a bit more SPV, but it's a soft fork. They still don't get knocked off the network. So you have to have a miner literally screw with them by mining a block that's valid on one chain and not valid on the other, and deliberately disrupting the Bitcoin network. And we're already trusting miners to a greater extent than we would need to trust them there. They're not going to do something like that. If they can't even cause disruption around Taproot activation within speedy trial, we're not going to see these edge cases come up. And frankly, I just found it a little disingenuous to be attacked for stuff like that. It was all considered, and it's being done positively as a positive change for Bitcoin, and with good intentions, and it's not going to cause any unnecessary disruption. So yeah, I can't really not mention the fact that we got accused of, this will steal your coins and stuff like that. I found, people should always be told, verify the code. Don't just run Bitcoin Core blindly. That's not how Bitcoin works. Like the thing that keeps Bitcoin Core reliable and honest is the fact that you don't have to use it. And up until now, for the most part. Most people would agree it's great software, and it's definitely the standard, the reference client that everyone should use within Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, thanks for those comments. And with Giacomo did have to run, so he doesn't get a chance to comment additionally on that. Lex, hey, thanks for coming on. I want to do another one of these shows because I think we just, to me, this is incredibly interesting because I was not in the weeds of this soft fork like I was in the SegWit soft fork. And maybe I should have been more invested in the Taproot soft fork than constantly caring about the price. So this is more of a reason for me to bring back or to start the Understanding Bitcoin podcast to piggyback on the Understanding Bitcoin conference. I do have to show the price because otherwise I am going to be late for my flight and that's not going to go over well. If you guys want to stick around, this will literally take 5 minutes. Guys, if I do get to the airport early enough, I will do a show from the airport like I usually do to talk about price a little bit more. But we are dropping right now. Bitcoin rallied right into a moving average on the this is a 4-hour scale, and we are now reversing. Some of it may have to do with the news that has been breaking over the last hour. From a daily perspective, we were rallying really good. I was waiting for us to rally 50% and see what happens from there. I don't really have much to add right now. I am still very, very cautious on this rally. I know I mentioned it in the group chat. I rarely do. All my thoughts are usually public. There's been a lot of speculation about how this crash was coordinated. This was posted. Everyone's like talking about this. Someone like wrote, I'm an insider and we're going to crash the price at exactly a certain time. And this was posted, like half a day before the crash on the 19th. And then they elaborated and stated that the price will crash to exactly $30,000 and it's going to happen within the next 6 hours. That is exactly what happened. I have not dug into this. My only comment on this is I've seen these things in the traditional markets all the time. People post this kind of stuff every single day. And once a year, it happens exactly like it's posted, but the other 363 days a year, nothing ever happens and it's completely wrong. So you really want to, before you believe in this stuff, you really want to take a look and watch everything on the internet all the time, and you will find out how often these things are wrong. And trusting every single comment on the internet will make sure you lose your money very, very quickly as well. I prefer to trust traditional TA tools and using stop losses when things crash. What made the current crash and rebound not, now I'm on a daily chart, and now those funding rates are a little more conducive to an actual strong rebound in the price. I'm still going to stay cautious. I don't see any support at 30. I don't see any reason why the price had reversed at 30 other than 30 being a round number. And so I'm going to stay cautious. I'm going to wait till the price rallies back into the 40s, starts closing in the 40s before I am comfortable with the bullish case of Bitcoin going to new all-time highs. So for now, I have not yet re-entered my GBTC position or added more to my GBTC position. I still believe this is a bull market, but at the moment, I'd rather be more cautious than crazily going all in. I will try to bring you a more detailed stream on the price of Bitcoin if I can get to the airport with a half an hour to spare. Unless there's any questions from Lex or Jimmy, we're going to wrap this up.
I'm all good. I appreciated your input there, Jimmy, as well, especially regarding precedent. And Giacomo made a great point regarding precedent as well. So that's been quite eye-opening for me regarding that. Regarding the other stuff, yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Tone, to talk about this stuff. It's been interesting. It hasn't been anything like the drama that came with SegWit, because this isn't wrapped up in the scaling debate like SegWit was. It got used as a political football by people that wanted big blocks and people that didn't and were hopeful that Lightning would help out, right? So, yeah, it's been a lot less drama, and hopefully Speedy Trial just succeeds, and hopefully people start to dial down the animosity towards the alt client, because it's not really necessary. it's compatible. There's no one going to be getting forked off the network, especially if Speedy Trial succeeds.
All right, guys, and those were the thoughts of Lex, goes by Bitcoin Mechanic, and Grass-Fed Bitcoin on Twitter. He also has a YouTube channel, which you can find. The link to it is in the video description. And as usual, we had on Jimmy Song.
Yeah, that is Programming Bitcoin, a book I wrote for O'Reilly. It's for programmers that want to learn the Bitcoin protocol. Also have two other books, Thank God for Bitcoin and The Little Bitcoin Book. One is a moral argument for Bitcoin from a Christian perspective, and the other is for lay people that just want to know what Bitcoin is. I am doing the Programming Blockchain Seminar in Miami, June 1st and 2nd. It's the first one that I'm doing in like a year and a half. So yeah, if you are interested in taking this class from me, I will teach you everything that you need to know about Bitcoin so you can, you know, program your own stuff. Yeah, and I will be doing it in Mexico as well. I will be at the Miami conference and the Mexico conference, which I think, Tone, you're going to be at as well. So yeah, that's about it for me.
All right, guys, thank you all for watching. I gotta pack up real quick and rush to the airport, and I will see some of you in Dubai. All right, thank you all for watching. Lex, happy to have you on again, one of these streams. And Jimmy?
Fiat Delenda S, this song is done.